Cheryl, let's have some fun and discuss who our ideal PWHL three-player protection list would be for each original six teams. Now, we look upon how much things are going to change across the league with the expansion draft on the horizon, the signing window on the horizon as well. So, if we were to put on our GM hats for each one of these original six teams, let's kind of walk through who we would want to keep. And let's start with none other than the first ever Canadian team to go on and play in the PWHL finals, the Ottawa Charge. So for me, I look at the three players that I would protect. Without a doubt, Gwyneth Phillips, Emily Clark. I think she has been the most consistent player for the Ottawa Charge since the inaugural season. And then for a defender, I'd pick Rania Salvalainen. I think her size, her shot, her toughness, and specifically her toughness and her size are some of those unique characteristics to her as a defender that I would want to keep a hold of. I think she can take a step next season in her game in particular, but I think she's so valuable. She has so much potential. So for me, I'm keeping Savalainen, I'm keeping Clark, and I'm keeping Phillips. If you were the GM, who would you protect?
Well, we're close, Kenzie, Lalonde, and we're close on two of those players. Gwyneth Phillips, I mean, she was outstanding all season long coming in for Emmerich Smashmeyer as of March 11th when she went down, and what she did in the playoffs. I mean, she was simply outstanding, earning herself the Lana Kloss MVP award because of what she did there. And she didn't come out victorious. And so to get that award when you aren't the winner, I mean, that says something. So I like that in terms of the back end and solidifying the crease. Then I'm going to go to Emily Clark. I'm right with you in all three zones. And if I'm a GM, I need someone who can be on the PK, the power play, someone who's young, who's going to be there for a while, is the pulse, the heartbeat, is fast, has the endurance. And she sort of fits all of those bills. We saw her in the playoffs. I thought she was outstanding. Ken Klee even gave her props, saying this is the best hockey I've seen her play. So yeah, I have those two players on my docket. Where we differ a little is going to be in Rania Savalainen. And I think she's fantastic. And if you could hold her, you hold her because of her size and all the reasons you mentioned, the reasons why Michael Hirschfeld went out and got her, knowing that you needed someone to shut down the cycle and get it done in front of the net. But I'm looking also at Ashton Bell here. I look at her. She's also good stature in terms of her size. We spoke to Carla McLeod in the playoffs about her stick and how she has just continued to improve. I mean, her one-on-one game, the way that she was closing and really finding ways to push to the outside. I also think she's a great skater. So from a transition perspective, not only from going forwards to backwards, but also on the offensive blue line and the way she manipulates it. And I think she can be a quarterback on that power play. So she can move on the blue line. She can generate and produce offense, which is critical in this league. So I would have had Ashton Bell as my third.
Yeah, I think her efforts and her performance in the playoffs, in the finals, really changed my opinion of what her capability can be in this league. So I agree with that one. I like keeping Ashton Bell. I think she's a super valuable player. Also, if Mashmeyer does end up become available, I'd have to think she'll be an early grab for one of these expansion teams, and maybe a Gabby Hughes or a LaRock will be an early grab. Maybe Ashton Bell could be available for protection, but we'll see how it all shakes out. So much great talent available. Okay, let's flip gears now to the Toronto Scepters. A lot of really great free agents are on the table for this team. So you look at some of those players that are eligible for protection. I think of building a list for me. It would be Daryl Watts. I would want to keep her. You'd want to keep Renata Fast, certainly up for Defender of the Year, another player that elevated their game. And also to round out the three, I would pick Blair Turnbull, the captain, the heartbeat of this team. I also think she elevated her game this season. And for that reason, I'd want to protect her. Of course, Hannah Miller, one of those valuable free agents that isn't eligible for protection.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you with this list. And Hannah Miller would have been the one that I would have looked out. But because she's not eligible, it takes her out and negates her. You have to wonder if Vancouver will be looking at her, just knowing the way she can shoot from distance, also in tight. So she's one that can really find a way to have that scoring efficiency for you. But when I'm looking at my three, I mean, Renata Fast is the no-brainer here, isn't she? I mean, she should be a front runner for the MVP because of what she has done on the blue line, how she's elevated her game in terms of offensively. She's one of the best shutdown defenders in the world who can skate the puck out of her own zone all the way to the offensive zone, play a ton of minutes. She plays with an edge, which is great in this league. But just what she does in terms of the power play and how she's playing sort of in all-roundedness of the game, she's got to be there, and she's the no-brainer. The second one for me, again, is Daryl Watts. I think there are very few players in the game that are like her. She is creative. She is dynamic. She thinks the game. She can put the puck in the net. She can distribute. So I don't think you let an athlete like that go. And then Blair Turnbull, I think when the going gets tough and spaces tighten and close up, playoff hockey, Blair Turnbull typically plays her best, as you saw in the playoffs. She's got that 200-foot game. She's going to be on the PK. She's one that also can find a way to play against top opponents in terms of the shutdown capacity and just those leadership capabilities alongside it. And with Hannah Miller not available, I'm going with Blair Turnbull as my third.
Let's round out the Canadian teams, turn things over to the Montreal Victoire, which will be so interesting to see what's going to happen. What do I think is going to happen? I do think Renee Desbiens, Marie-Philippe Poulet, and Laura Stacey will be the protected players. You also look at what has made this team successful, and it's the offensive punch of Poulet and of Stacey. So keep it going. That's what's worked for this team. But of course, you're going to give up two of the most valuable defenders in this league. It's going to be a challenging decision for Danielle Sauvageau.
I think this is a tough one for Danielle Sauvageau to a degree, right? You said it. I mean, you got the best player in the world in Marie-Philippe Poulet. You've got the best goaltender in Renee Desbiens. And then you've got, Laura Stacey, who's had 11 goals, 11 assists, and you know what that top line did. And the question mark was around the depth because they haven't been able to win in the playoffs. Now, for me, though, if I am going to put my GM hat on, I have the opportunity to have the best goaltender, one of the best defenders, and the best forward. So if I'm going to build, I can build in all zones. So I'm likely going to hold Erin Ambrose. Also noting that Laura Stacey, if she does get picked up, what kind of contract is she going to sign? Is it going to be a 1 year? Is she going to come back to Montreal? I think that they're going to lose Kayla Barnes and Ambrose right away if they let them both go. And they've got other D, there's no question about it, Kenz, but you look at the likes of Ambrose and Kayla Barnes, that you aren't replacing that. So I'm going to hold Erin Ambrose. I'm going to hold her because not only can she play good, strong minutes in her own zone, and a ton of them, I might add. You just look at her time on ice. She makes a great first pass. How do you generate offense? You better get out. So those zone exits. Then she's so smart. She is so aware, but it's on the offensive blue line. She had 13 helpers this year. She won Defender of the Year last year, and there's a reason why. She can quarterback your PP1. And for me, this is a particular skill set that is not easily found. So for me, I'm going to hold on to one of those D so that I don't get crushed on my back end and have, losing two of them right away.
If Barnes, if Ambrose were to leave, you'd have to think there'd be a chance they could then keep Jen Gardner. But if they do choose to also lose those two or just keep one, they have Keppel, they have Tabin as free agents. Sauvageau will have to lock up those players and also explore free agency to recoup that depleted blue line if one of Ambrose or Barnes or both leave. So it'll be interesting to see how Montreal's protected three will shake out. Moving on to the
Absolutely.
American teams. Let's start with New York. Well, you talk about high-end offensive talent. It's kind of a quick, easy eyeball ratio test here. You'd have to think Sarah Fillier, Alex Carpenter, and Ella Shelton will be the three protected here for New York. And who does that expose? Well, their goaltender, Corrine Schroeder, who I think very well could be selected, whether that's in the exclusive signing window or in the expansion draft. So New York has to be okay with losing Schroeder. We have seen the likes of Osborne and what she can do. And I think it'll be a really robust free agency, not only for players, but for goaltenders too. So I think New York can afford to lose Schroeder, pick up another goaltender in free agency to keep on the likes of Fillier, to keep Carpenter, to keep Shelton, three of the best players in the game. So for me, as I look at New York, it's almost an easier decision on who to keep.
Yeah, and I would agree with you here. And I look at Osborne's body of work. She did play 10 games. She had a 9.16, and I think there are goaltenders available, but there aren't the likes of a Sarah Fillier available, or an Ella Shelton, or an Alex Carpenter. And that's not to diminish what Corrine Schroeder has done. She's an outstanding goaltender, and this was really tough But when you look at, Alex Carpenter, one of the best centers in the world right now, not only in her ability to win the dot, I think she was over 52% this year, but just, I mean, how brilliant she is, especially coming down the middle of the ice with such great timing. She gets her stick on pucks when there is no room, on and off the stick, but she has this amazing sense of awareness and where to get to the different pockets to be able to get that puck. And whether she's playing alongside Fillier, who's a right-handed shot who has played center before, so they've got a 1-2 punch in the dot. Fillier is so smart in and around the net as well. So now all of a sudden you've got this combination that can find different pockets but find each other. But you can also play them apart depending what you can get in the draft. You can play them apart because Sarah Fillier has played center for a good portion of her career. So she can play the flank and enter the zone, or she can play low in her own zone and garner that speed underneath the puck. So you've got that 1-2 combination. And then you got one of the best defenders in the world in Ella Shelton. And I don't think you can hand that over, much like Montreal. She can shut down a cycle. She's a strong skater. I think she's got an uptick in her offensive production, calculated risks, and we've seen that sort of grow over the course of the year. And I think she's sort of the foundational element of your back end that you build around. So when you've got those kind of building blocks, building pieces, and you still have a netminder like Osborne in the lurks, I think you got to hold those three.
I always wonder too, moving on and who they do end up selecting and keeping. Could we see Sarah Fillier, the captain of this team or of a team in the future, with Dandy Hart being a BC native? If they do not choose to protect her, there's a valuable, reliable defender that could very well be moved in the exclusive signing window or in the expansion draft. Well, then who do you leave that C to? Would it be Carpenter? Would it be Fillier? But very much Fillier, Carpenter. You can't find that duo anywhere else. You would have to keep them. It'll be interesting to see if a letter shifts in that market. Moving on to Minnesota and Boston. Now, as I look at how I approach these two teams, I was very present oriented in the moment. How is my team going to benefit the next year? Maybe not 4 years down the road or 3 years down the road. Next season, how can I keep this team competitive? So for me, I would protect Kendall Coyne-Schofield for Minnesota. I would protect Taylor Heisey and Sophie Jakes as well. Those would be my three in Minnesota. And it's hard to think Steckline could leave. It's hard to think Panic could leave, or even Grace Zumwinkle. But I think because of their connection to Minnesota, players like Panic or Zumwinkle, maybe there's a chance they would come back later. Maybe they would go do a year or two and then come back to Minnesota. So I'm kind of holding on to that hope that they'd want to then one day come back and return and play at home. But for now, I think you keep Coyne-Schofield. She's the face of the game. She's the heartbeat of this league. You want to keep her. Heisey is a star. And of course, Sophie Jakes, one of the most dynamic defenders. I think if she was not protected, she would be a high valued player selected in the realm of Ambrose and Barnes. She would go really early. So I'd want to keep Sophie Jakes, which is crazy to think that she only came over to Minnesota in a trade. And here I am as a general manager protecting her. That is how valuable I think Sophie Jakes is.
I just love this exercise, Ken's, because this one I really struggled with as well. And you look at their goaltending, but because they have a tandem, right, a strong tandem, they're gonna hold one. And so you look at it and say, okay, I think we're not going to protect a goaltender because of that, because I know I'm going to be okay in the crease. And I'm with you on Heisey. I think there's, she's just a magician in terms of how she skates, in diagonals in the offensive zone, and how she brings pressure to her because she's a natural distributor. So she's one that just, has to be there. When I go to Kendall Coyne-Schofield, this one was a bit of a question for me, not because we don't know what she can do and just what a leader and how fast, and you watch her first few strides and the intensity to fight for position. And that's leadership. And so, but I did toy with a second defender only because I think that Vancouver and Seattle, when they're eyeing up blue lines, they're going Montreal and they're looking straight at the Minnesota Frost. So I was kind of looking at this and saying, oh, do I do two defenders? I decided in my own brain that I was going to go with Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Heisey, and I'm doing Lee Steckline. When I think of leadership, I think of her. And I think about just not her calming presence on the back end, winning back-to-back Walter Cups, but also about how she kind of sets the temperature for others. So when Jake's originally comes in, playing with her, Claire Thompson, and so she tends to settle everyone into the game. I think she's one of the best one-on-one defenders in the world. I know I've said it over and over to nauseum on broadcasts about her stick, right, and how great her stick is. And for all the kids out there, you better be watching Lee Steckline's stick, because the way she pushes to the outside and her awareness that doesn't always, get the flash. So I look at her and I say, okay, that's the non-flashy Lee Steckline. And then all of a sudden we started to see her elevate her offensive game. And we spoke to Ken Klee about it, and he said, listen, like, she's challenging herself all of the time in this department, not afraid to activate. So we're sort of seeing a two-headed monster with Lee Steckline, if you will. But she knows, that her bread and butter is taking care of the home. And that's right in front of her net. That we call that home plate. And so for me, when I look at her, I say she's one of the irreplaceable players in this league. So when you have that combination of skill, shutdown capability, leadership, and still growing offensively, I'm holding on to her.
And you talk about players being at their best right now, someone that has the intangible. As I look at Boston, I look at Hillary Knight. And if she does want to stay and if she wants to continue on in Boston, of course I will protect her. She had such an incredible bounce back season. I think she is also playing some of her best hockey right now. So I would want to keep her. Fans pay to come see her play. She's one of the most talented offensive players there is. So if she's interested, I would certainly keep Hillary Knight in Boston. I'd also keep Erin Frankel, and I would keep Megan Keller. I think that trio for me jumps off the page. Megan Keller, without a doubt. Frankel seems like a no-brainer, and Hillary Knight as well. The question becomes then, if you keep her, well, Mueller will be very exciting to select. Hannah Bilka will be very exciting to select. So who's Hillary Knight now going to play with? It'll be interesting to see how that will all shake out, and knowing as well that Megan Turner now becomes a general manager of one of these expansion teams. She knows this Boston Fleet team better than maybe anyone else. So it'll be interesting to watch this market and see who, in fact, of the three players do get protected here.
Yeah, it's a tough combination right now for the GMs to look at, because are you picking for now? Are you picking for your future? I still think this is a now league, because you only have 8 teams with expansion. And so you want to win now. But you're right. I mean, Hillary Knight announcing her international retirement, I think there's a big question mark around, okay, does she continue playing and for how long? And that's a big question marker. And so you have to figure out what that's going to look like in the future, because if you already know that that's kind of her, the end is in sight as a 35-year-old, what do you do with one of the best in the game who's undoubtedly going into the Hockey Hall of Fame? So right then and there, I'm with you. You'd protect her. But, if she is going to be announcing that retirement or only playing for another year, do you go out and get Alina Mueller? Protect Alina Mueller. Just a natural distributor, someone who I think sort of has had an uptick in her trajectory. I thought it was a slow start to her PWHL career last year in the inaugural season. It's a different league. It's more physical. Ice closes up a little differently. But she's learned within the game, right? And so she's a finesse player, but she also plays with some bite. And so I think when you have a player like that, much like Toronto, when they have a Daryl Watts, you want to hold on to them. You want to make sure you're building around that group, natural distributors. Can you align them with a goal scorer, which is going to be the difficult part if they do lose a Hillary Knight. But I'm with you on Erin Frankel, one of the best goaltenders in the world. You don't let them go. And I think that she just has been outstanding for them, and you don't let that go at all. But Megan Keller for me is another one. So we're pretty aligned here, Kenzie. The transition skating of a Megan Keller, as well as just her seasoned international experience in the big game moments. She can provide offense. She's always going. I always say when she's on the offensive blue line, look for her coming down the middle of the ice. She doesn't go down the weak side. She doesn't go down, she's coming right down the middle. And so just that, and she plays with an edge. She's not afraid to get dirty, play hard net front. So I'm building around her, Frankel. And if Knight is a no-go, then it's going to be Alina Mueller.
And if Knight was to leave, I could very well see Megan Keller earning that captaincy on her chest. She very much embodies those qualities that you want to be the foundation of your team. Well, Cheryl, I think we did pretty good as general managers. What do you say?
Not too bad. I'm sure we'll get some backlash on this one, Ken's, but you know what? It's difficult. I mean, you can only protect 3 players. So that's certainly going to bode well for Vancouver and Seattle. I mean, when you look at who is available right now, but it's a puzzle out there, right? It is an absolute puzzle to get the right mix, the right chemistry. But I think when you're looking for it, you're looking at foundational elements that you can build your back end and your forward group around. And so that was the process that I put into my thought process. But I'm not a real general manager in this league. So for now, that's just our analysis.
The PWHL player protection list due date is June 3rd at noon Easter. Fans will be able to find out who each one of these original 6 teams of the 3 players they will keep.